Okay, let's unpack this. $9.3 billion just vanished. That's the staggering amount Americans lost to crypto crime in 2024.
Staggering is the right word, yeah.
And here's where it gets, well, really interesting, that figure. It's a massive 66% jump from the previous year. A number like that, it really demands a closer look, don't you think?
It certainly does. I mean, such a huge increase isn't just a statistic, right? It points to a rapidly evolving threat landscape. Digital assets have clearly become a prime target.
Yeah.
This surge, it suggests we really need to understand the shifts driving this criminal activity, you know?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. You've shared some really compelling information, all coming from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3, basically.
The central hub for reporting this stuff.
Exactly. And their 2024 report on cryptocurrency scams. So our mission today is to pull out the key insights, like who's getting hit the hardest, what are the most common scams people are running into, and crucially, what's actually being done about it. We're aiming for clarity here, not, getting bogged down in jargon.
Precisely. We want to give you a clear picture of the current reality of crypto crime in the U.S., based directly on what the FBI found, and maybe some wider industry analysis, too.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture then, the sheer scale, $9.3 billion. I mean, it's just an astronomical figure, but it's more than just the money, isn't it? It represents, like, so many individual people affected.
Indeed. The financial loss is immense, and it matches up with a huge volume of complaints. The IC3 got nearly 150,000 complaints just about cryptocurrency in 2024.
Wow.
That's a massive number of people directly impacted by these crimes.
And just to really underline how fast this is growing, I think you mentioned in 2023 the losses were around $5.6 billion.
That's right, $5.6 billion.
So that 66% jump in just 1 year really highlights how urgent this is. What do you think is fueling such rapid growth?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or I guess the billion-dollar question here. Several factors probably play a role. They're getting smarter and more sophisticated with their tactics. They adapt really fast. And if you look globally, Chainalysis estimated the total illicit crypto volume worldwide was maybe around $41 billion in 2024.
$41 billion.
Wow. So the U.S. losses, while huge, are definitely part of a much bigger international issue.
Okay, so digging into the types of crime.
Yeah.
Investment fraud seems to be way out in front, accounting for, was it $5.8 billion?
That's right. $5.8 billion just from investment fraud. It's the dominant category by far.
So what are the typical signs of these scams? What should people, be looking out for?
Well, what's really insightful here is how they consistently exploit that desire for high returns. That combined with maybe a lack of deep understanding of the tech by a lot of people new to crypto. Scammers are really good at creating this illusion of legitimacy, fake investment platforms promising these incredible, often totally unrealistic returns. Just to lure people in.
And once the money's in?
It's gone. It just disappears. They take control, and that's it.
And then there's this really nasty one called pig butchering. The name itself is pretty grim. What makes that one so effective?
It is particularly insidious, yeah, because it's not quick. Pig butchering, it involves a lot of social engineering.
Okay.
The fraudsters, they invest weeks, maybe even months, building what feels like a genuine online relationship. They build trust and emotional connection before they even mention investing.
Oh, wow.
It's slow, calculated, like fattening up a pig before the slaughter. That's where the horrible name comes from.
That sounds absolutely devastating. Not just the money, but the betrayal. That must be incredibly hard to deal with.
Precisely. The impact, it can be catastrophic. People lose life savings, sure, but also their sense of security, their well-being. It's tragic, actually. Operation Level Up, that's a government initiative targeting these things. They actually made 42 referrals for suicide intervention just from victims of these scams. It really underscores the severe emotional toll.
42. Jeez. That really brings home the human cost behind these billions. Are there other common tactics in investment fraud we should know about?
Yes, definitely. Another really common one is fake celebrity endorsements.
I think I've seen those.
Yeah, scammers create fake quotes or sometimes even use deepfake videos, to make it seem like famous people are backing some crypto investment.
Yeah.
It gives this false credibility.
And people trust it because they recognize the face.
Exactly. They invest based on that manufactured trust.
Now, the IC3 report, it also flags that older Americans are hit disproportionately hard. suffering the biggest losses. Why them? Why this group specifically?
This is a really concerning trend, yeah. It points to specific vulnerabilities. In 2024, people over 60 reported losses of $2.8 billion just from crypto crime.
$2.8 billion just from that age group.
Yeah, and it's not just the highest amount for any group. It's also way up from $1.65 billion in 2023 and $1.08 billion in 2022. So it's a clear, worrying upward trend.
That's a huge increase in just a couple of years. What makes seniors so vulnerable here? Is it just that they might have more savings? Or is it something else?
That's a key question. Having more assets might make them attractive targets, sure, but other factors are likely involved. Individuals over 60 might, on average, just be less familiar with crypto, its complexities, its risks.
Right, the tech side of things.
Yeah, exactly, which makes them more susceptible to these scams that exploit that knowledge gap. The IC3 report specifically mentioned over 8,000 complaints just from this age group related to fake investment opportunities.
And it wasn't only fake investments targeting them, was it? There were other methods, too.
Correct. This group was also frequently hit by impersonation schemes, often involving crypto ATMs or BTMs.
How does that work?
Well, scammers might pretend to be, say, government officials or maybe tech support. They convince the victim they need to withdraw cash and deposit it into a BPM using a QR code. But that QR code sends the money straight to the scammer's wallet.
Oh, that's clever and devious. How do these losses compare to other age groups? You said $2.8 billion for over 60s.
Yeah, and the next hardest hit group, ages 40-49, they reported $1.4 billion in losses.
Okay.
And then everyone under 40 combined lost about $1.37 billion. So it really starkly shows the disproportionate impact on older Americans.
Yeah, it really does. It's sobering. Okay, so beyond investment fraud, the landscape of crypto crime seems incredibly varied. Like sextortion was apparently the most frequently reported complaint in 2024.
It was, which is disturbing. While investment fraud leads in, dollar amounts lost, the sheer number of sextortion complaints highlights how prevalent that awful form of exploitation is. And beyond those two, you see this wide array of scams, leveraging different parts of the crypto world, exploiting different human vulnerabilities.
Like those rug pulls. I remember the squid coin scam tied to that Netflix show. That was a pretty clear example of things going south fast.
Exactly. A rug pull is basically when the creators of a new crypto project just disappear. They abandon it and take all the investors' money with them.
After pumping up the price.
Usually, yeah. After hyping it up, maybe artificially inflating the value. The squid coin played on the show's popularity, its value shot up, then the creators vanished with an estimated $3 million. Investors were left holding worthless tokens.
And sadly, romance scams often tie into this stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Especially that pig butchering we talked about, using that emotional connection.
They absolutely do. The trust built in romance scams is frequently exploited to push victims into these fake crypto investments. And it's worth remembering, the overall cost of just romance scams in 2023 was huge, something like $1.179 billion. It shows how effective and damaging these manipulations are.
Then you've got the more techie scams, like phishing attacks going after private keys. For anyone listening who isn't deep in crypto, what is a private key and why is losing it so bad?
Right. Think of your private key as the master password to your crypto wallet. It's the unique code that lets you access and control your digital money.
Okay.
Unlike a password you can reset if you lose your private key, or if a scammer tricks you into giving it up through phishing like a fake email or website, there's usually no way back. Your funds are gone. Irretrievably gone.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And those man-in-the-middle attacks on public Wi-Fi sound sneaky too.
Oh.
Using a vulnerability many of us probably don't think about.
Yeah. These attacks basically intercept your data when you're on unsecured public Wi-Fi, like at a coffee shop or airport. They grab sensitive info when you log into accounts or make transactions.
So always use a VPN on public Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. Or just stick to secure private connections for anything financial. It really highlights that need.
And we're still seeing the classic social media giveaway scams, right?
Uh,
Those send us a little crypto to verify, get a lot back deals.
Exactly. Still around, still catching people. They promise a big reward for a small upfront payment, often framed as, a verification fee. Of course, the reward never comes. They just pocket the fee.
And then you have the old school financial crimes just wearing new crypto clothes, like Ponzi schemes. That case, Jonathan and Tanner Adam, promising crazy high monthly returns.
It does stand out. Promising returns way, way higher than market rates is always a massive red flag, crypto or not. Their scheme guaranteed, 13.5% monthly?
Insane.
Totally insane. And they defrauded investors of $60 million. It's a stark reminder.
Be incredibly wary of promises that sound too good to be true.
It feels like scammers are hitting every angle. Fake crypto exchanges to steal deposits, fake job offers tricking you into paying training fees in crypto, even exploiting remote workers. That's right, they're constantly finding new ways in. Fake exchanges look just like real ones to trick you into depositing funds. Employment scams ask for crypto up front for bogus fees. And that shadow workforce thing is concerning.
The fraudulent remote workers.
Yeah, sometimes with links to nation states. Like North Korean IT freelancers have reportedly stolen nearly $3 billion in the past year. They were even linked to that big Sky Mavis hack.
Wow, the scale and complexity. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
We're even seeing attacks within decentralized finance, DeFi, like flash loan attacks, and now AI scams. Can you briefly explain a flash loan attack?
Sure. So in DeFi, a flash loan is basically an instant uncollateralized loan, but it has to be repaid in the same single blockchain transaction.
Right.
An attack exploits flaws in the smart contracts controlling these loans. Attackers can manipulate prices or other things within that single transaction to make money unfairly, like what happened with Platypus Finance.
Right, and AI making things worse now.
Yeah, with generative AI getting so good, we're seeing new threats. Fake chatbots pushing scam tokens, incredibly realistic deepfake celebrity videos. It's making it much harder to tell what's real and what's a sophisticated scam.
And let's not forget the real-world impact with Bitcoin ATM scams. People being tricked into putting cash into these machines. That $65 million loss just in the first half of 2024 is significant.
It is. The tactic of impersonating police or other authorities, telling victims to use a BTM to secure funds or fix a fake problem, it exploits fear and, again, that lack of familiarity with the tech.
It certainly sounds like law enforcement has a massive challenge here. Operation Level Up seems like a good step, though, actively trying to fight back.
Operation Level Up is definitely a significant proactive effort, identifying victims, disrupting these scams. The fact it prevented maybe $285 million in losses and even led to those suicide intervention referrals. It really shows the impact and the need for these initiatives.
And the use of blockchain intelligence must be getting better, right? Helping track funds in this pseudonymous crypto world.
Yes, what's really valuable here is how blockchain intelligence is chipping away at that idea of total anonymity. Companies like Chainalysis have these sophisticated tools. They can trace the flow of funds on the blockchain, spot suspicious patterns, and critically link those digital transactions to real-world entities through investigation. It makes it much harder for criminals to hide completely.
And we have seen some big past recoveries, right? Like funds from the Bitfinex hack, Silk Road, seized years later. It shows these digital trails can be followed.
Exactly. It's challenging, for sure. But those successes show what's possible with persistent, skilled law enforcement and these advanced analytical tools for blockchain forensics.
But there must still be some major hurdles for law enforcement trying to tackle this constantly shifting crypto crime scene.
Oh, absolutely. A big one is just bridging the crypto literacy gap within agencies. Many officers are still developing the specialized skills needed for these complex investigations.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Plus, the sheer volume and speed of crypto crime can be overwhelming. And because it's global, borderless, you run into issues with data silos, different jurisdictions. It can really slow things down.
Now, for someone who's unfortunately been a victim, lost funds, the hope of getting it back must be huge. But it sounds like recovering crypto is often really complex, maybe even unlikely.
That's a crucial and often difficult point. In most cases, the best shot at recovering stolen crypto is reporting it quickly to law enforcement. They might be able to get freezing orders on accounts holding the stolen assets.
Might being the key word.
Might is the key word. Actually, getting funds back depends on a lot of factors, and it's definitely not guaranteed.
And victims really need to watch out for those so-called asset recovery services, right? The ones preying on desperation.
Precisely. This is so important. These recovery scammers make false promises, claim special skills or connections. But you need to remember, only law enforcement typically has the legal power to freeze and potentially recover stolen funds.
What are the red flags for these recovery scams?
Big red flags are guarantees of recovery. Nobody can guarantee that, and demanding fees up front before they've done anything. Be extremely wary of those.
So, the role of private investigators. Pretty limited in most crypto recovery cases.
Generally, yes. They might help trace funds initially, maybe assist in civil cases for very large losses. But their ability to actually recover crypto that's been moved around or hidden in anonymous wallets is limited. And as you said, they cost money with no guarantee, making victims potentially vulnerable again.
This whole issue, it feels like it has ripples far beyond the individual losses. It must hit overall investor confidence, right? Trust in crypto, maybe even the wider financial system.
It certainly does. Research shows that experiencing crypto fraud can make people significantly less likely to invest in similar platforms again, often by a large percentage and for at least a year.
Wow.
And what's also concerning is a potential spillover effect into traditional markets. It suggests a broader loss of trust that starts with these bad experiences in crypto.
And it seems like someone's financial literacy might play a role in how they react after being scammed too.
That's a significant point, yes. Studies suggest people with higher financial literacy tend to cut back on crypto investments more after fraud, maybe because they better understand the risks involved.
And those with lower literacy.
Conversely, they might be at higher risk of falling for future scams. It really highlights how crucial investor education and accessible protection resources are.
Well, this has been a really illuminating deep dive into the FBI's IC3 report on crypto crime for 2024. The scale. That $9.3 billion loss, it's just impossible to ignore.
It really is.
And the sheer variety of scams, always evolving. From complex investment fraud to those horrible romance schemes, it's frankly alarming.
Indeed. And we've seen how specific groups, like the elderly, are disproportionately hit. And while, law enforcement is getting better tools, blockchain intelligence is advancing, there are still huge challenges.
Yeah.
And the rise of recovery scams just adds another layer of risk for people who've already been victimized.
So as we wrap up this really eye-opening discussion, it leaves a critical question for you, the listener, thinking about how fast both crypto tech and scam tactics are evolving.
Yeah, it raises an important point for you to consider. With law enforcement getting better equipped to tackle crypto crime, what does the future actually hold for accountability? And maybe even more importantly, for rebuilding trust in this whole digital asset space. It's definitely a dynamic situation, and, well, your awareness and vigilance are really key to navigating it safely.